Uh, Welcome to the Yuba County Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, September 14th, 2021 at 9 a.m. As a courtesy to others, please have your microphone muted at all times when you are not speaking. All items on the agenda, other than correspondence and board and staff member reports, are considered items for which the board may take action. The public will be given an opportunity to comment on action items on the agenda when the item is heard, and comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per individual or group. I know at our last board meeting, we had some comments about meeting back in person. And so I just wanted to remind the public that we are meeting via Zoom today because the board chambers is being used for the recall election and is unavailable for us to meet in. So we do hope that at our next meeting, we will be back in the board chambers. So with that, Supervisor Vasquez, I know you have something you'd like to read this morning, and then after that, I'm going to ask you to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. On Saturday, the 20th anniversary of 9/11, we had over 500 flags and pictures out there of Northern California soldiers who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan and paid the ultimate sacrifice. I had there was never really a mention in the paper of that celebration out there. And today we recall and we celebrate what we learned about ourselves on September 11th, 2001. We recall and we celebrate how we acted that day. We remember once again how ordinary human beings living their ordinary lives reacted with extraordinary heroism without warning, and in an instant they were thrown face to face with the most fundamental question of human existence. On September 11th, we saw ordinary people choose duty in the face of death as the security guards in the Trade Center continued to help people out, even as the buildings were collapsing around them. On September 11th, we saw loyalty to friends overwhelm all sense of danger as the New York City firefighters searched tirelessly for their own. On September 11th, 2001, we saw ordinary people choose self-sacrifice for the good of strangers as the passengers on the plane over Pennsylvania refused to allow the hijackers to succeed. On September 11th, 2001, we saw ordinary people choosing to spend their final moments expressing their love to their families. There's a man in New York who had tape recorded many of those final messages, and he listens to the tape every day because it's such a pure expression of human love. Americans will be meeting like this every September 11th, I'm sure, to refresh our national memory of what we learned that day in 2001. Not only that we have enemies in this world who would destroy us if they could, but that the age-old values, duty, loyalty, self-sacrifice, and still flourish in the hearts of the ordinary people we live and work with every day. Of all the dangers facing our country, perhaps the greatest is the one that doesn't make many headlines: our collective national amnesia. Our history textbooks are sanitized to be politically correct and give our children a little sense of the greatness of the nation they lived in. The founders are seldom mentioned. How many American kids have nothing good to say about their country? Their knowledge of the sacrifices made to establish and preserve their freedom is virtually non-existent. They are the recipients of the greatest freedom and opportunity that any society has ever produced. Yet they are unaware of the price that was paid for it. At my father's table, I learned the country in a way that only a parent could teach it. Dad taught me that patriotism wasn't a theory. It was flesh, blood, real sacrifice, and pain. You are your children's most important teacher. They are listening. Explain to your children the price that was paid to stop the evil of fascism and the cancer of Soviet communism. Tell them why there was a Berlin Wall, what happened at Okinawa, on the beaches of Normandy, at Ground Zero, and over the fields of Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Take a moment to teach your children and grandchildren to love the things we love and to honor the things we honor. Finally, let's remind ourselves that liberty is a gift from God and that to each generation has paid in flesh and blood to preserve it. As General Patton said, it is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men lived. All these things, from patriot graves and the memorials that honor them to the values they died for, are bound together, as Abraham Lincoln said, in the cord of memory. And in closing, for those who fought for it, freedom has a special taste. The protected will never know. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and mute your microphone, please?
Thank you, Andy.
I mute myself.
Yep.
Oh, well.
So next up is roll call.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Here.
Supervisor Blazer,
Here.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Here.
Supervisor Fletcher is absent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and can be enacted with one motion. Is there any
Make that motion, but I'd like to call attention to 3 of the items there. Property tax collection, we reached 14.5 million on our tax rolls. Item 462 is the Ostrom Road project, which is 2,779,000. And item 36 is grant funding for drought relief. We're trying to get 1.9 million. All right.
Great. I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a first from Supervisor Vasquez, a second from Supervisor Fuhrer. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, is there any board comment? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher is absent. Thank you.
Thanks.
So that takes care of most of the agenda.
Next up, we have public communications. Any person may speak about any subject of concern, provided it is within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors and not already on today's agenda. The total amount of time allotted for receiving such public communication shall be limited to a total of 15 minutes, and each individual or group will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Prior to this time, speakers are requested to fill out a request to speak card and submit it to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. If you are participating via Zoom and wish to comment, use the raise hand function in Zoom or press *9 if you're participating on a phone. Please note, no board action can be taken on comments made under this heading. I also wanted to remind the public that we do have specific agenda items related to mask and vaccine mandates, as well as school COVID restrictions, and those are 474, 2021 and 459, 2021. So the appropriate time to make comments on those items would be when those items are heard. So I would ask if there's any comments for items that are not already on today's agenda. And it looks like Charles has a comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, Yuba County Supervisors. Charles Sharp, Oregon House. The Yuba Center Arts, who are located in Marysville, is requiring all patrons to be vaccinated and that all of their staff be vaccinated and wear face coverings at all times as an example for others to follow. I see you are pointing people to Brophy Water District and Ramirez Water District. I'm not sure why you're doing this, but it means, I guess, under certain circumstances, you have the authority to appoint people to water districts. By the way, it looks like I am a co-host along with a lot of others. Apparently, I can mute and unmute others at will. Interesting. You might want to check that out. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you, Charles. Any additional public comments on items that are not on today's agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to county departments, starting off with item 473, 2021, Community Development and Services. Adopt resolution authorizing the head of each county department to defer, reduce, and/or waive fees established by Ordinance Code Title 13 that would otherwise be chargeable to survivors of the Glen Fire and subsequent forest fires proclaimed as a local emergency that are directly related to the survivors' recovery from the fires. Mike Lee, is this you this morning?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, fellow board members, Mike Lee with Community Development. So this is a similar resolution to what was done in recent years. It seems like these devastating forest fires are now the new normal in California. So Yuba County suffered through the Cascade and Willow fire in recent years, and your board adopted a resolution similar to this. And most recently, with the Glen Fire, we wanted to aid the survivors in any way we can. And one way being that getting authority to waive or reduce the fees in Title 13 of the Ordinance Code. We would report back to the board on any fees that are waived annually. And going forward, rather than coming before the board with each incident, we decided to write the resolution where it'll cover future forest fires that are declared a local emergency as well, so that we don't have to repeatedly come back to the board for each incident. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Are there any questions from the board?
No, but I'll make that motion to adopt the resolution. Thank you very much, Mike, for a very proactive resolution.
Okay, we have a first. Do I have a second?
I can second.
Okay, I have a first by Supervisor Vasquez and a second by Supervisor Blazer. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, I do not see any, so roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes,
Supervisor Fletcher is absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Now we're moving on to item 474, 2021, County Council. Consider adopting resolution opposing state-imposed mask or vaccine mandates. And first, we will take a staff report from staff, and then we will take public comment. And then we will return it to the board for discussion and potential motion. So that's the way I'd like to take this item and the next item. So we'll start off with Mike Chikazi.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Chair, members of the board. As I think everyone's aware, there has been increasing concern regarding certain actions at both the state and now the federal level regarding vaccination mandates. At our July 13, 2021 board meeting, a member of the public brought forward a proposed resolution which purported to prohibit any mask or vaccine mandates and take some other actions. At that time, the consensus of the board and the direction of the board was for County Council to work with the CAO's office to draft something in line with the resolution presented by the members of the public. I undertook a review of that proposed resolution and based upon that, using that as a foundation, moved forward and drafted a proposed resolution for the board that is attached, I believe, as attachment number 2 to the agenda item. I have also included with the agenda item a resolution that was passed by Sutter County, focusing on vaccine mandates, and not it doesn't specifically address mask mandates, but it was a sample that I wanted to present to the board to show you the options in front of you, and basically what the proposed resolution that I have drafted and presented to the board does is it expresses the board's opposition to state mandated vaccine or mask requirements. It is a push to put that authority back in the hands of local jurisdictions. Now, the resolution as presented by a member of the public unfortunately went a step too far and attempted to basically override state law. That is not something that we can do. And as I pointed out in the staff report, and I've given citations to authority, so it's not Mike Jacozzi saying it. The courts have made clear, and I think it was most clearly expressed in Lockyer versus City and County of San Francisco by the California Supreme Court, when they said that the oath to support and defend the Constitution requires a public official to act within the constraints of our constitutional system, not to disregard presumptively valid statutes and take actions in violation of such statutes on the basis of the official's own determination of what the Constitution means. County officials are free to express their disagreement with state policy or state legislation, but we can't simply ignore it. And that's just an artifice of the county being a subdivision of the state. So what we've tried to do is craft a resolution for this board that clearly expresses two principles. First, we recognize we have to follow state law. Second, we also oppose any attempt by the state to impose upon individuals a vaccine or mask mandate. And the board now is free, having the three resolutions in front of them, the one presented by the members of the public, the one that we drafted for the board's consideration, and the one from Sutter County. The board is free to decide to adopt any of those, to reject all three, or to modify any of those in any way that the board likes, and then we'll move forward and present the final product to the chair for signature. So with that, I'm open for any questions. I trust everyone's had a chance to review the proposed resolution, but I'll be happy to walk through it if further detail is needed.
Through the chair. The resolution opposing state imposed vaccine or mask mandates is the one crafted by you and approved by you. Is that correct?
That is the one that I have crafted. That's attached number 2. I have crafted that one and I have signed off on it. Yes.
Okay. Well, because that covers pretty much everything that we have been, or I've been trying to do, I would make that motion that we do adopt.
Andy, can we take
Yeah.
public comment first and then we'll have board discussion? I imagine each board member might have something to say, and I know the public.
I understand.
Okay.
Well, that was my my statement. All right, thank you.
Oh, okay. So we're going to start off. I see at least one member of the public has their hand raised so far. So we're going to start off with Ms. Mallow.
Okay, good morning, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, good morning. I'm actually in support of this resolution. I certainly appreciate County Council for bringing it. What I want to remind everyone is that back in 2020, if you remember correctly, Fauci stated, and I quote, "People should not be walking around in masks." So asymptomatic transmission has served as the backbone of COVID-19 guidelines, but has yet to be scientifically proven. So amongst other things, I am not in support of anyone being forced to put something into their body that they're not comfortable with, especially if they're going to lose their job over that. I want to urge the board members to support this resolution, because if you don't, it just takes away constitutional rights that are God-given to us. So I certainly thank you if you're in support of this, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Mallow. Okay, next we have Miss Allen.
Hi, good morning. So I want to echo Ms. Mallow in my support for this resolution. I want to thank you all. You all have been really great leaders when it comes to the matter of just COVID and supporting your community through this. I want to thank you, Mr. Sikorsky, for creating this resolution and putting a lot of thought into it, trying to accommodate our resolution as best as you could. I really appreciate that. You all are leaders and role models for what American government is supposed to look like right now. Not ensuring safety, but ensuring freedom and rights. Unfortunately, right now, we see a lot of government leaders who are trying to silence the opposition to this vaccine campaign. And when you do that, you silence the good reason, the data, and the facts which exist. And you eliminate an opposition to the campaign. You actually lose essential checks and balances that actually keep us all safer. It makes our community safer, it makes our government safer, and it makes our healthcare system safer to have those checks and balances in place. Not passing this resolution today would be partnering with an authoritarian government that we're unfortunately seeing all over the United States today. And I just want to thank especially Supervisor Fuhrer, Supervisor Blazer, and Supervisor Vasquez. You guys have all been champions over the last few months in this matter. I want to urge Supervisor Bradford to also vote with this resolution. And I would urge Supervisor Fletcher as well to do the same. This is a win for individual rights, for the right to choose. This resolution doesn't go as far as to make businesses to stop forcing their employees to get the shot, or it would still allow businesses to unfortunately discriminate against people in the public who haven't gotten the shot. Those people, of course, have the right to choose to shop or choose to work for people who are not discriminative. I would love to see some security or some safety for those people in the future, so those people wouldn't have to be discriminated against in their own community. However, I think that this resolution is a great, productive solution for the moment, and it's a great step in the right direction. So thank you all again, and that will be it for me.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Allen. Next up, we have Ms. Yurko.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to come to this meeting on Zoom, and I do not support this resolution. The way I understand it, there's plenty of science out there to know that what the virus is doing to our country. And the way I also understand that the mandate that's being put forth by the government is not a mandate, actually. You don't have to get the vaccine, you just have to do weekly testing. So there are options, but safety is an issue here because of all the people that have died as a result of this virus. So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents about not supporting this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Yurko. I do not see any other hands raised. Oh, there we go. Okay. Vaughn?
Okay, thank you. I had to unmute myself. This is Bonnie Hughes, Yuba City resident. I want to just wholeheartedly agree with Courtney Allen and Sandra and what they said. I very much congratulate all of you for putting this together and putting it before the board. We've needed this a long time ago, or we shouldn't have needed it at all, because this is our freedom that we're deciding. We decide what's right for us. We decide if we should wear a mask. We should decide if we have something put into our bodies or not. This is all our health thing. And now everybody has become doctors. Our offices become doctors. Our businesses become doctors. So do check our temperatures and like that. This is I appreciate this resolution, and I wholeheartedly ask you to support this, to sign it, and it is a great start. I have got family members, I have friends that are now, well, they haven't been able to work because they said, if you don't have the vaccination, if you don't have this shot, you cannot come to work. So they are without work at this point because of this, and that should not happen. And if our hospitals are overflowing like they say, it's only because the nurses will not take the shot. Who else should we listen to? The nurses know what's going on. They see what the shot is doing to people. So we should at least listen to them. But if our hospitals are saying there's no room, it's because there has to be a nurse-patient ratio. And because we are shortened on nurses, that's why the hospital is overflowing. So please follow through with this. I appreciate it so much. I'm just so excited when I saw this on here. Thank you very much. Anna, just another note, and I wish I would have raised my hand earlier if I could on just the general comments. And Mr. Vasquez, thank you so much for presenting 9/11 and the comments that you shared. We do need to be reminded of that constantly. I do want to let you know we have honored the 13. We are honoring the 13 soldiers that we have lost as service members at both the Veterans Memorials in Sutter County and Yuba County. There are crosses laid for them and a memory card. So, but thank you again, and I hope that you will pass this. Absolutely, thank you.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. Next up is DJ Christ. DJ Christ, you're next up. Okay, well, looks like DJ is having an issue. Do we have anyone else that wishes to speak?
Through the chair, we do have Joanna Losaga.
Okay, Ms. Lasaga?
Hi, hello.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I guess.
okay, sorry,
I guess we'll
sorry
go
about
with-
that, guys.
we'll go with
I was having technical difficulties. Sorry about that. Hey, I just wanted to give my support for these 3 resolutions that you guys just read through them this morning. They are fantastic. I do believe they are a great step in protecting individual rights and liberties to choose. I just wanted to echo the thoughts of Dr. Robert Malone. He's one of the original creators of the mRNA vaccine technology. He said a couple weeks ago that he believes there is a middle ground here between universal vaccines and no vaccines. And, you know, he went into the science behind it of protecting the most vulnerable while letting others choose alternative treatments. And I believe that's what you guys doing, excuse me, sorry. I believe what you're doing today is a great step in that direction, letting people choose what treatments they want and not forcing or coercing a medical treatment on them. And so I just wanted to commend you guys, say thank you very much for proposing these resolutions. I fully support them. As a father of a vaccine injured child, I do understand that there are dangers to anything that we put into our bodies, whether it's something we eat or whether it's through an injection, and they should be researched thoroughly. This is not something that should be done flippantly. This is something that people should take seriously. They should know whether or not there could be adverse effects to this. And this is not something that should ever be forced on the public. And so I just thank you guys very much for taking this stance. And I echo Courtney's thoughts as well. I would love to see in the future, maybe some a little more ordinance prohibiting businesses from requiring these things for their employees at least, and patrons as well. But this is an amazing step in that direction. Thank you guys for taking this stand and for voting on this today. And you have my full support. Thank you.
Thank you, DJ. Ms. Lasaga?
He's muted. There we go.
The subjects that I wanted to speak on have long passed. This is not the subject I wanted to speak on, and so it's a moot point.
Okay, but you're still, I would still allow you to speak at this time if you wish.
Well, that's fine. What did you guys do in years past during an election, when we didn't have Zoom?
So we don't usually necessarily do back and forth, but I will give you an answer to that. Usually the election is on the first Tuesday of the month, and we do not have a Board of Supervisors meeting during that time. So we usually do not have this issue.
Got it.
And the water agency usually meets at their building because they do have a meeting that day.
Got it.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this item? Okay, then I will return it to the board. I imagine board members might have some comments. So
You got a Jay that raised a hand here.
Mary or Rochelle, am I missing someone that has their hand raised? I don't see anyone.
Jay.
There, yes, you
go.
do. It's Jay is his name. And Jay,
Okay.
you are able to unmute yourself, Jay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, my name is John Welch. I live in Marysville, and I just wanted to support your resolutions. I just want to make that comment really pretty brief and simple. And it really comes down to, as we know, fundamentally, that these are constitutional freedoms we're talking about. So first and foremost, we need to support our constitutional rights. And there's a saying that Glad Tidings put out. It says, as free Americans, we will not comply with unconstitutional medical or political mandates that violate our basic rights. So what you guys are doing is a great step in that direction. And I support that. And I thank you for taking those steps. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with their hand raised?
Through the chair, no, it seems that is it.
Okay. With that, we will return to the board. Maybe the easiest way would just be to go down through the districts. So start with Andy. Do you have any comments, Andy?
I don't have any comments. I just wanted to make the motion.
Okay.
To adopt it. Thank you.
So Supervisor Blazer, any comments from you?
Yes, I want to compliment Mike on the writing of these resolutions. I think they're well thought through, well written, and address everything that we need to address at the moment. It's, as everybody knows, there's a huge disparity on thoughts on these things, but I think what we're doing is we're finding a middle ground. I think the key thing here is self-determination, and the fact that now the people and small business should have the right to self-determination, especially on these issues, which I think are really good candidates for that. So I'm all for it. So thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Fuhrer?
I would like to make an amendment and get rid of 8 words that are repeated twice at the end of page 2 and the beginning of page 3, where it says, while recognizing its obligation to follow state law. Those 8 words seem superfluous. It's already known, and it's not included in all of our other resolutions. I don't know why it would be included in this one. So I'd like to see those 8 words taken out, and then I would be happy to move this adoption as well. Additionally, I would like to see us enact an emergency ordinance similar to what has been enacted other places, creating a protected class for unvaccinated so that they are not treated poorly. $5,000 fines when they are treated in a way that is unjust or unequal or not medically and scientifically backed up. There's no advantage or reason that someone who has natural recovery from COVID can't be allowed to go into a hospital to visit their dying relatives. But if you have a vaccination, which gives you an inferior level of protection, you are. There's no reason that a person should be exempted from positive PCR testing because they've had a vaccine, even though they can still carry the infection with another person having a similar situation, but not having the vaccine, but having perhaps superior antigens because of their own recovery. So there's no reason for there to be a inequality in application of law. So I'd like to see us for our next meeting have that emergency ordinance in effect, $5,000 fine when people attempt to target the unvaccinated unfairly.
I think that's through the chair. I think that's an unlawful order. It's in the military. You have to obey a lawful order. That is not a lawful order. But I'm sure the courts will sort that out.
I think at this time, I think the appropriate thing would be council just confirming we could take a motion to see if a majority of the board wishes to have that on a future agenda. Is that a correct?
That's correct.
Process at this point?
The item before you
Okay.
is a motion on a resolution. If there is a request to bring this back, then there should be a vote of the board and the majority agree.
Okay, it sounds like this is a separate request. So would it be appropriate for us at this time to temporarily table, I guess, our discussion on the other item and the resolutions that are before us and entertain a motion on what Supervisor Fuhrer has suggested?
Yes, I think it would be appropriate if you want to take your vote on whether the board is interested in bringing the ordinance that was just suggested back.
Okay, so Supervisor Fuhrer, would you like to make a motion?
I so make the motion. Thank you, sir.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. I have some comments on the resolution that is before us before we go ahead and take a vote. I just want to say that I believe there's clear evidence that both masks and vaccines are safe and effective methods to reduce the impact of COVID-19 in our community. Neither masks nor vaccines prevent the transmission of COVID-19 completely, but there is clear evidence they reduce it. Vaccinated individuals can still catch COVID-19, can still spread COVID-19, and can still be hospitalized by COVID-19 and can still even die from COVID-19. However, we have local data that clearly shows vaccination greatly reduces the chance of all of those things. As a result, I believe vaccinations are an important part of protecting our hospital, our kids, our fellow community members, and our local economy. However, I do have concerns when state or federal government tells entire industries that they have to get vaccinated or they will lose their job. There is potential for that to cause significant impact on some sectors of our economy. There are 3 different resolutions attached to this agenda item. Given what I just shared, I'm only able to support one of them. That is the resolution passed by the Sutter County Board of Supervisors. It clearly states the effectiveness and safety of vaccines and the importance of people getting vaccinated, while at the same time expressing our opposition to state and federal mandates. I ask my fellow supervisors to join me in sending a message that vaccines are safe, effective, and encouraged, while at the same time opposing state and federal vaccine mandates that could cause people to lose their job. I urge you to please support that Sutter resolution as written. Okay, now I believe we have a motion from Supervisor Vasquez to approve the resolution written by County Council. And we have a suggested amendment by Supervisor Fuhrer. So I guess Supervisor Vasquez, I would ask you if you're willing to amend your first to include Supervisor Fuhrer's, what Supervisor Fuhrer suggested edit to that resolution was.
County Council, what would that do to the resolution?
Yes, thank you, Supervisor.
Taking those 8 words out.
I don't think it would do anything from a legal standpoint. Some of those words were included is because we do not want to create the misperception in the public that this board can opt out of state law. And while in most instances, that isn't a necessary statement, I don't disagree with that. Many of our resolutions don't go into the fact that you have to follow state law. However, on these divisive issues where the state is issuing mandates and there is a strong push to have this board simply ignore those mandates, I felt it important to include in there the fact, and you'll see it in the staff report in the discussion, but to include in the resolution the fact that, look, the board can do what it can do. It can oppose these type things, but it cannot ignore state law. And that's the reason those 8 words are in there in this resolution. But again, from a legal standpoint, it doesn't really change anything. It's just a matter of perception by the public.
Supervisor Fuhrer, your response.
I think it's important to express strongly, without any conciliation, that we are against the mandates, which is why I want those 8 words removed so that there is no question and no misperception.
Okay. I'll amend my motion to include the suggestion by Supervisor Fuhrer.
Okay.
All right.
We have an amended, we have an amended first and a second. So roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
No.
Through the chair, if I may ask a question.
Yes.
So I don't want to violate in the future any sort of Brown Acts. So I feel like I have to have the discussion here in the open forum about why people vote the way they vote or don't on things. So what is the correct decorum and etiquette there? Because I don't want there to be a problem, but at the same time, I'm really curious why the other board members do not want an ordinance protecting non-vaccinated from unfair treatment. So how is it that I'm supposed to resolve that particular issue?
Council, would you care to address the best way to do that when the appropriate time is to have a discussion, or if that's even really possible since it's not agendized?
The appropriate time to discuss that would be after the motion is made and seconded and is on the table for the board to consider. Then the board has discussion.
But it was not seconded.
No, it was not. It died without a second.
So how do I have that discussion?
Well, if you wanted to talk to Supervisor Vasquez and say, why didn't you support that? Supervisor Vasquez will tell you. If you wanted to talk to Supervisor Blazer and say, why didn't you support that? You could talk to Supervisor Blazer about it. However, you could not discuss with him anything that was said as between you and Supervisor Vasquez. Likewise, if you wanted to discuss with Supervisor Bradford, you could discuss with Supervisor Bradford. However, you could not share with Supervisor Bradford anything said between you and Supervisor Vasquez or you and Supervisor Blazer. So
very good. So it would not be spoken hub situation for me to individually poll each of my colleagues concerning why they don't want to protect unvaccinated people from unfair harm.
I thought to the chair, I thought we were going to bring this back as a separate resolution is that what I understood?
Supervisor Vasquez, there was a vote on whether or not to bring it back, and it did not receive a second.
Okay, so it can be brought back.
It cannot be brought back.
Not in this session, but it can be brought back the next board meeting.
The board as a whole opted not to put it on a future agenda item because no second was made to Supervisor Fuhrer's motion to do that.
That's correct.
Okay. So we're going to move on to item 459, 2021. And we will, County Council adopt resolution supporting the return of governing power for school COVID safety protocols to local school districts. And again, we'll follow a similar format. Staff will present, then we will give the public an opportunity to comment, then we will give each board member an opportunity to comment, and then we will entertain a motion. So Council?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Honorable Chair, members of the board. This item is brought forward again, presenting 3 resolutions to the board for consideration. Well, let me back up. As we've seen and as set forth in the staff report, steps have been made by the state to dictate the types of COVID safety protocols that should be taken by local school districts in allowing children to return to school. There is, the same type of disagreement that we have with almost all things COVID related in the public forum. And this resolution, we were directed by the board on July 13th to take the resolution that was presented by the public and to craft the resolution for consideration by the board. The resolution before you, that we did craft, essentially establishes that the board supports the return of authority to local school districts to determine COVID safety protocol measures within the schools. It supports the return of children to school, and it recognizes parental authority to make decisions regarding the safety and care of their children. Those are very broad brush strokes, but those are the guts of this ordinance, or sorry, of this resolution. Again, I have included resolution that was presented by members, the members of the public for review by council, a revision, and I have included a resolution that was passed by Tulare County that is in a similar vein, supporting the return of authority to local school districts and parents to make decisions regarding masking and vaccination requirements. So with that, again, I'm open to answer any questions of the board.
Okay, any questions, not necessarily comments?
Through the chair, County Council, there's the World Health Organization recommends against children. I'm glad you put that in there. There's 2 very important statements to me, actually 3, that 0 to 17 account for 0 total deaths due to COVID-19, and be it resolved that Yuba County Board of Supervisors hereby advocates for parental choice. That is very important, that we leave this up to the parents. I raised 5 kids, and luckily their youngest is 40. Otherwise, I'd go to jail over this. There's no reason for them to be wearing masks. There's no reason for them to be vaccinated. They have a natural immunity. And that's one of the things that CDC seems to be failing to report any meaningful data about and all the thousands of illegal aliens coming into our country are not vaccinated or even tested. So we're just a standing target that they can play with. So I support this.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to public comment. So please remember, use the raise hand feature on Zoom. We'll start off with Ms. Lasaga.
You're muted. You're muted. Rochelle, can you unmute her? Thank you.
There we go. Let's try again.
Yeah, here we go. I would like for you guys to give the authority back to the schools. I would appreciate that. I agree with Mr. Vasquez. But what I think you guys should also concentrate on is the catch up buses or vans or whatever they are that are being used to catch up on vaccines at schools is inappropriate. The parents should have the ability and the wherewithal and the right to take their kids to a doctor to have that done. It does not need to be done. And I would ask respectfully that you get rid of those at schools. It is not the school's responsibility. They need to go back to education and educating our youth and stop playing doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought that was covered in the therefore be it resolved, parental choice.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Ms.
So-
Harrison? I'm sorry, Ms. Mallow.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. I'm in support of this resolution, board members. I think it's super important, especially what Mr. Vasquez said about it's important to leave it up to the parents and that he would potentially go to jail for that. I think there's a lot of parents that feel that way. It should be our decision about our children. It shouldn't be the government's. It shouldn't be a school board. And I think the school board has way too much power as it is. And I certainly wholeheartedly support you in this resolution and I applaud you for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mello. Ms. Carlson?
Good morning, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm still as mad as hell. I can't even believe we're having this conversation. These things are incredible to me. Yes, thank you for putting resolutions through. I appreciate that. But hell is at our doors. This is full on a communist takeover. If you listen to the president, he's not even the president, the Biden regime. If you listen to his speech, that is full on communism. It goes directly against the Nuremberg Code, the 10th code. At any time I want to leave this trial, I am the trial. The young children of this community are the trials. And Andy, thank you for standing up. And Seth, absolutely, thank you for standing up for our rights as God fearing citizens and our God-given rights. And so I think that there was, in the last one that there was missed, I think that Andy, Mr. Vasquez wanted to give the second and he didn't have an opportunity to do that, to bring forth what Seth was talking about in protecting unvaccinated people. And so I just want to say, we have to do more. Thank you for what you're doing, but we have to fight like hell or fight like heaven, because this is communism. This is a communistic takeover right now of our nation, and it's right here. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Ms. Allen?
Hi, yes, good morning again. I want to echo what those before me have said. I agree with this resolution. I think that, children ultimately are the victims of our politics, and it's really unfortunate. And there was a Journal of the American Medical Association study made that talked about the acceptable levels of oxygen that children are exposed to in the classroom, at home. And when a child is wearing a mask, their opportunity to receive the right amount of oxygen it doesn't happen. And so that leads to many, many negative side effects. And we don't know those yet because we'll have to pay the price for those later. I just don't think that schools need to be a place of vaccine and masks. This subject is so highly politicized. To have it in the school system with children, it's not fair to them. It's not fair to what will become in the future. And I do think that it should be a choice made by parents in their home for what is best for their child. Again, echoing individual liberties, echoing freedom, which is where we still live. We don't live in China. We do not live in a collectivism ideological country. We live in a country which celebrates individuality and choice. And so I think that we should pay homage to that. And I would appreciate you approving this resolution. And just as an extra comment, I did want to echo what Rebecca said. It seemed to me like there was a little bit of confusion, and Mr. Bradford, I would actually really appreciate it if the board was able to make that motion again for the protection, for the ordinance protecting those who are unvaccinated. If you could allow the board to make that again, it seemed like Mr. Vasquez was in favor of seconding that. So I would like that opportunity to happen again if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other public comment on this item? Do not see any other hands raised. Oh, yes, looks like Bonnie.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, thank you again for hearing me out. And I just want to follow along with what Rebecca, Courtney, and Sandra had said. I totally agree and with this resolution. And thank you so much for the county council and for the board to be considering this. It's highly recommended. Why in the world are we doing this to our children and putting masks on their faces where they cannot see expression? They cannot, that keeps them from talking with each other. It keeps them in a state of fear the whole time they're at school. Like if I take my mask off, I might hurt somebody else. So I'm going to keep it on. The mask is not, it's got nothing to do with them. It's in fact, it's hurting them more because of what they're breathing in all day long, of what's of their carbon monoxide and coming out. I stress that this does get passed. I do thank you for bringing it up, and we have to free our children. We got to free our children and let the parents decide and have nothing to do. It's the 3 R's: writing, arithmetic. Let's do that, and let's go worrying about all this health issues. Let the parents take care of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any more public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we will return to the board. And Supervisor Vasquez, do you have any comments? Oops, you're muted, Supervisor.
I'd like to adopt the resolution supporting the return of governing power for the school COVID safety protocols to local school districts.
Okay, we have a first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a first from Supervisor Vasquez, a second from Supervisor Fuhr. Supervisor Blazer, do you have any comments?
No, I absolutely agree with everything we're doing, so I'm fine.
Okay, Supervisor Fuhr, any comments?
No comment.
Okay, I do have some comments. First, I want to start off by saying I believe strongly in local control and fully support our local school district having the authority to determine which COVID mitigations are most appropriate to keep our kids in the classroom and our schools open. However, I do have concerns with the resolution that is before us. It's important to understand that this resolution makes a statement about our support of local school district control, but it does nothing to actually grant that control because that is outside our authority. Unfortunately, our school board meetings are full of angry parents upset with the school districts requiring masks, something that is mandated by the state. I know when Placer County passed a similar resolution, parents took it to the school board meetings and claimed the supervisor said the schools didn't need to listen to the state. Of course, that isn't true, but I'm concerned this resolution will have the same effect here. I don't want to create further division and anger at school board meetings simply so we can make a statement in support of local control. I urge my fellow board members to vote against this, not because we disagree with it, but because it doesn't do anything other than potentially create confusion and fuel division.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I disagree a wee bit.
Okay.
We're doing our due diligence for our citizens. Our citizens are telling us that's what they want to do. And if they ignore it, then it's up to the citizens to make sure that school board is vacated and you put new members into it. But the general public needs to know that we are supporting them and protecting their children, allowing them to be parents. this has gone long enough. I was in first 5 when one of our school officials said that wish we could get around the parents. That's not your job. That is not your job. You're not here to raise the kids. You need to limit yourself to what you're put there for, and that's you failed at that because you're 41st in the nation. When you get back to first, come see me then. Okay. Because
any additional comments from the board? Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is item of public interest, item 434, 2021. Community Development and Services make finding of a public convenience or necessity for a type 20 ABC license for a convenience store located at 937 North Beale Road, Suite B2.
Through the chair, this is Kevin Perkins with Yuba County Planning. Before your board today is a consideration to make a finding of public convenience or necessity for a type 20, which is a beer or wine off sale license for a new convenience store that is seeking to open on North Beale Road. So a little bit more of a background. The county did receive an application from Lakhvinder Delai, who again is seeking to start a new convenience store at 937 North Beale Road. The APN is 020-020-026. The property is zoned commercial mixed use. In the commercial mixed use zoning designation, convenience stores are a permitted use. However, due to the Yuba County being in a moratorium for the issuance of ABC license 20 and 21. License 20 is beer and wine sales off sale, and license 21 are all alcohol off sale. Due to this moratorium, in order for Mr. Delai to be able to get a license from ABC to sell beer and wine off site, your board would need to make a finding of public convenience or public necessity. So Yuba County doesn't have any policies related to alcohol. So there really isn't anything for my staff to make a recommendation on this. I'm here to answer any questions your board might have. The applicant, a representative of the applicant is also online, Mr. Aaron Resendez, and I think he'd like to speak on this. I'm here to answer any questions in the meantime about this process with ABC, and if any of the board members have any questions about the moratorium or what that means, I can answer those as well.
Okay, do any board members have any questions? Okay, Ms. Resendez?
I had a quick question. So the products he's selling would be similar to the AMPM, is that correct?
Through the chair, he's seeking to sell beer and wine and other convenience store type items, but I'll defer that question to Mr. Resendez so he can answer that.
Okay, I am. So can you repeat the question one more time?
Well, I'm just trying to get it clear in my head if you're selling a wide range of food products for the people, say at the Rio Rancho Motel, so they don't have to walk as far. But are you also selling beer and wine apparently? Is that what your plan is?
Yes, that's correct. But the beer and wine will be like 3%. The most it can be when it's already, people already know that it's liquor, there will be 5%, no more than that. 95% will be grocery store. Items like necessity of the people, like myself, I like to, once in a while that I drink beer, I like to stop on a convenience store, even if it's gonna be more expensive. I like to have that instead of just going to inside Walmart and buy a six pack, for example. And that's the convenience we will have for our community around, especially the people on the hotels, on the motel.
All right.
Kevin, so are these two separate issues, or is it the beer wine separate from the food sales?
Yes, so the zoning allows a convenience store by zoning right. So he would not need any approvals other than an occupancy permit from our building department to operate the convenience store. However, in order to sell beer and wine off-site, he would need a license from the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control. And that license is a type 20 license. And currently Yuba County, like most counties in the state, are under a moratorium. So anytime a new ABC license is issued in Yuba County for a type 20 or 21 off-sale beer and wine or alcohol sales, your board would need to make a finding of necessity or convenience in order for the California ABC to issue that license.
So he technically can't apply for the license without the approval of the board, is that right?
Yes, he technically can apply for the license, but ABC won't grant him the license unless your board issues a finding of convenience or necessity.
All right, thanks.
All right. To the board, through the chair. Seeing as how this is in my district, I think that Star Bait and Tackle going down left a void there, and I think that he's just a small business guy trying to make ends meet. And I would make for a finding of public convenience or necessity for a type 20 license for the convenience store located at 937 Northfield Road.
Okay, that's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and we will hear from Mr. Resendez. Would you like to speak, Mr. Resendez?
Okay. So let me give you a little background on this.
I just made a motion to approve it.
Oh, okay.
You're still welcome to speak if you want, or
yeah,
you don't need to.
I'm still gonna speak on this.
Okay.
I came to help this family back last year. Miss Dulai and I couldn't attend the meeting that it was on March 24 of last year because we were told not to leave the Santa Clara County where we live. And we couldn't attend the meeting. You guys were behind all these 9 counties in the Bay Area. So this time she paid again the fees that I'm gonna ask you also if you can waive those fees that she already paid last year. This time she paid until July because she didn't have that much money to pay again the fees. That was, we couldn't leave the county. We were all in shock last year. We didn't know what to do with the pandemic. Now that we know more than we knew before. Now, comparing this pandemic, when they closed all the small businesses, and I'm including the business that they were closed last December, was a shame that big business like Walmart were open, Costco was open, all those big business and Christmas, they were open full of people, and small stores like this convenience store and other restaurants were closed. So I'm just trying to help these guys know and understand the issue that they didn't know. When they hired me, they didn't know where this was stuck. They already have the license. They only need permit from the county supervisors to get approved and move on. This is gonna be a small portion of the grocery store that is gonna be sold. Here in Santa Clara County, I'm a certified business consultant. I got 20 licenses back in 2019, 9 last year, and I have seen every small business, mostly in Santa Clara County, how they want just to survive and succeed. So if the motion of Mr. Vasquez is to approve this, I ask all of you to approve. Her competition will be Walmart, maybe, that is close to there, but that's what the convenience store does. If you have any other question, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Resendez. Do we have any public comment on this item?
To the chair, I've got one further question. Is there any part of the fees that we can discount? I guess that would be to Kevin.
Through the chair, my department doesn't have authority to waive any. How the fees that Mr. Resendez is referring to is my department charges $934.92, which covers staff time to receive the application, write the staff report, get the staff report on agenda.net, and present the item in front of your board. So, you know, I don't have the authority to waive anything. That would be your call.
Okay. Mr. Resendez, I'll come down and we'll discuss it. I think I can cover half of it. All right. You have a great day. Call the question.
Okay, any more questions from the board?
Through the chair, I do think it's going to fill the void that was left by Star Bait and Tackle. I don't think the alcohol sales are necessarily going to make things any different than they are now. And I'm assuming that if we approve this, there'll still be further discussion about the alcohol permit. Is that true?
Through the chair, this item right now would be making the decision on the alcohol permit, on whether your board would like to make a finding of convenience or necessity that would allow ABC to grant Mr. Delay the type 20 beer and wine off sale permit.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Great. So with that, I will ask for roll call vote.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher is absent. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Resendez. Next, we have ordinances and public hearings. If you challenge in court the action or decision of the Yuba County Board of Supervisors regarding a zoning, planning, land use, or environmental protection matter made at any hearing described in this notice, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at such hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the Yuba County Board of Supervisors at or prior to such hearing. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual or group. We do have an item under public hearings that is scheduled for 10 a.m. And so it might be appropriate to take that item at this time. So we
go through the chair.
Yes.
It just can't go before 10 a.m. I'm more than happy to continue on as outlined in the agenda.
Okay, perfect. We can do that then. So we'll take the items in order, starting with 482-2021, Health and Human Services, hold public hearing, waive second reading, and adopt ordinance of the Yuba County Ordinance Code to join the Partnership Health Plan of California Commission. And I will open the public hearing. Morning, Megan, is this you?
It is. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. I am Megan Marshall, your Deputy Director of Public Health. Before you today is the request to adopt an ordinance that will allow for Yuba County to join the Partnership Health Plan of California Commission. Since this board's August 24th approval of the first reading of the proposed ordinance, Partnership Health of California hosted informational sessions for the Board of Supervisors and Vice Chairs of all 10 counties intending on transitioning to a county organized health system or COAST model of care. 9 of the 10 counties passed the first reading of their respective ordinances, including Tehama and Nevada counties who have passed their final ordinances. And I believe just in the last few minutes that Butte County also joins Tehama and Nevada passing their final ordinance as well. The 10th county is Colusa, who will have their first reading of their proposed ordinance today. On September 2nd, Adventist Health and Rideout hosted what will now be a regularly scheduled meeting that included your Yuba County Health and Human Services staff, our Sutter County colleagues, executives from AMPLA and Peachtree. And shortly after this productive discussion, we received a strong letter of support for the transition to a COAST model with partnerships from Peachtree. While we did not receive letters of support from AMPLA or Adventist Health and Rideout, we all agree that we are stronger together and are committed to ensuring the best possible care for our community's most vulnerable members. We are aware that the board has received additional communications alleging there are options outside of transitioning to a coast model or remaining in our existing model. In fact, and as has been repeatedly confirmed by the Department of Healthcare Services, we do not. We are also aware that the board has received communications that there is time to consider those additional options that we do not have. In fact, we have until October 10th to provide DHCS with an approved ordinance to transition to a coast model or be forced to remain in our existing model, which we all agree does not work. We've heard from several community members today how much they value the checks and balances democracy affords its private citizens to participate in governance and how important it is for leaders to incorporate the voices of those constituents in their decisions. By adopting this ordinance, the board is telling those most vulnerable constituents that they have been heard and their voices will be a foundation for the governance of the coast model of managed care. With that, I will thank the board for its time and answer any questions it may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Through the chair, there's no questions, but a couple of comments. I spent an hour and a half in the cold exam room waiting for a doctor that hadn't even had time to look at the x-ray. So I would like to actually make that motion to approve the Yuba County ordinance to join the Partnership Health Plan of California Commission.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
I can second it.
Okay, I have a first and a second. We have some public comment, so we will go to that before we come back to the board for additional discussion and a vote. So we'll start off with Ben.
You're muted, Ben. Can you unmute Ben? There we go.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, supervisors, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I don't have really that much new to say to you from what I said in previous meetings. I just like to reinstate my opposition to this ordinance, basically because of the same reasons that I expressed from the very beginning. The lack of due diligence in the process was clear. Even after our previous meetings between the county officials and providers, in particular AMPLA Health, to address providers' concerns never really took place. The meetings that were presented were meetings to show us PowerPoint presentations from partnership describing how great they have been in other counties and how great they have done in other places. But we never heard any proposals of what they want to do in our county, how they want to address the needs of our patients, how they want to demonstrate that they have the capacity to meet the needs, medical needs and financial needs of the addition. We heard a report, many reports of how great partnership is in other places, but over and over they have refused to present a proposal on how they will do it in our county. And this is what we just cannot understand. They were addressed by many people, including us individually, and they don't want to talk to us. What they say is, we will talk to you after the decision is made, which it doesn't make sense. This is not due diligence here or anywhere else. I don't know why they refuse, but it's just the way that they do it. I cannot support joining this group when we know that we have never heard any specific details or how they plan to address this. Now, if they gave it to the counties have never expressed those to us. I never had a personal meeting with the county. They never approached us with asking us for our specific demands or needs. They just had general meetings where county was telling us how great partnership is, and that was it. So I'm sorry, but I still cannot support this. If we're here to serve the patients, we will continue service them regardless. But this proposal just does not meet the due diligence that we were expecting. Thank you.
Through the chair, can Dr. Liu answer that question?
Sure.
Yes, I'm available. Can you please clarify, Supervisor Vasquez, what specific question you would like me to answer?
Well, he's feeling left out.
So let me note to you that in the past 6 months, we have convened several meetings with Yuba Center medical executives. We wanted to make sure that it was inclusive. So we personally invited AMPLA medical executives. Mr. Flores, Ms. Walker was in attendance for 5 out of the 6 meetings. So the meetings were held on March 26th. April 2nd, we actually invited representatives from the State Department of Healthcare Services to speak to all Yuba County and Sutter County medical executives at that time. We also convened a meeting on April 15th where we asked partnership leadership, including their CEO, to present and actually have a dialogue, not just a presentation, but a Q&A with all Yuba County and Sutter County medical executives. Then in June, we sent out a draft ordinance outline a week beforehand and then convene a meeting directly with all Yuba County and Sutter County medical executives on June 11th. I also personally emailed all the executives to notify them on August 17th of the scheduled plan for first reading and second reading. And then most recently, as noted by Megan, we participated in a meeting with all Yuba County, Sutter County medical executive on September 2nd that was facilitated and hosted by Rick Rossin, the president of Ventus Health and Right Out, to discuss the implementation and delivery of healthcare for Medi-Cal managed care beneficiaries.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. It's nice to see the sparkle in your eyes. A little enthusiastic there.
Les?
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Anthem submitted written comments to you all that more fully support my comments here today, but I did want to take a few moments to make public comment and to highlight some of the points that I believe are important for your consideration as you make this important vote. In these hearings, we've heard that county desires to have more local control over the provision of Medi-Cal services and into the plans that provide those services. And I would like to reiterate that there are other models, managed care models, that provide for more local control while still providing members choice. And this change is important enough to take the time to ensure those avenues are thoroughly explored. Anthem is a proud leader in preparations for the CalAIM requirements. And yes, I agree that all plans are required to implement a baseline of those changes. However, not all plans have the capacity really to implement a number of the in lieu of services, such as asthma remediations and recuperative care that we have intentions on implementing locally. We have both statewide and local partners focused on making this happen. We've been hosting over 75 meetings a month with our counties and partners to plan for the January implementation, including Yuba County Public and Behavioral Health. So we continue to partner on local programs with including Right Out to provide telehealth services in the riverbed for behavioral health and urgent care with Anthem kiosks and technology services through their street nursing program. Sutter Yuba Behavioral Health, Anthem provided iPad kiosks to assist members being treated by county behavioral health for urgent care and for mild to moderate behavioral health. Anthem provided funding for county behavioral health to purchase items for homeless members in need of sleeping bags, socks, shoes, and other items. We've provided free telehealth, urgent, and psychology for all residents during fire evacuations and during the COVID pandemic. So just wanted to reiterate again that Anthem has long been committed to our members and partners in Yuba County, and we desire the opportunity to bid in the RFP to continue providing that level of service. We don't believe there's a need to rush into a model change that denies consumers choice and disregards competition until you've all considered really the options available in a thoughtful and transparent process that include all stakeholders, such as the managed care plans that are currently servicing the beneficiaries in Medi-Cal today. Thank you for the opportunity. Again, my name is Leslie Barrow, Plan President for the Anthem Medi-Cal Health Plan. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
Great, thank you. Kathy?
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Kathy Walker. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at Ample Health. And we've been somewhat vocal, and I know you guys have entertained hearing us, and we appreciate that. The meetings that Dr. Liu spoke of did occur, and we're very appreciative of those meetings. Unfortunately, they came much too late. All of the meetings only pertain to pushing partnership. We never had an opportunity to talk about alternatives or what our needs were outside of a potential single plan partnership. And so, yes, those meetings occurred. The last meeting that we as providers pushed and put together and the county attended, Mr. Rawson asked us all to share what we wanted to see moving forward for our community. And we all voiced that. And the explanation or what the county brought to the table, staff, was a PowerPoint for partnership. It's never been a discussion about alternatives or what alternatives might exist that might be better for the patients of our community and us as providers. We consider ourselves a strong partner with the county through this pandemic, probably comes to mind most strongly. And we'll continue to be a good partner, but we're really disappointed that those conversations didn't occur in a timely manner to allow everyone to weigh in and voice what might be better. We have great concerns about the monetary loss to the community, the potential monetary loss. Ample Health, for our communities here, receive in excess of $4 million annually to fund programs and things that directly benefit our patient population. Those are not part of our pay for services, for our visits. It's in excess. And we've been able to leverage the two plans to get those programs funded. We're a nonprofit. Those programs go away without funding. So in anticipation of that and recognizing where this is all headed, we've reached out on multiple occasions. One most recently 2 weeks ago on a webinar with partnership, and requested directly to them that they set up meetings with us to discuss and answer our questions, and they've turned us down. They've said they will not meet with us until this decision is made. And I think that speaks volumes to what our concerns are. They won't have to negotiate with us. Once it's handed to them, it's done. We have no negotiating power. And so we have great concerns for the impact a single no choice is going to have on our communities and on us as providers. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Ms. Wahlberg? Ms. Wahlberg? Rochelle, are we able to get her unmuted?
Has she left the building?
Through the chair, she is unmuted. Donna, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you're able to speak.
Okay. I guess we will, unfortunately, we're going to need to move on. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll give Ms. Wahlberg one more chance. Are you able to unmute Ms. Wahlberg? I do know you are a co-host, so you have the ability to unmute.
Destroy his chances of being a
a formidable or interesting statewide candidate in 22.
Okay, so I will return it to the board, and Ms. Wahlberg, before we vote, if you're able to get unmuted, you're welcome to speak. So just say something. So coming back to the board, any
Through the
comments,
chair.
questions? Yes.
Through the chair, is Jennifer Vasquez available for comments on
Yes,
this?
Supervisors, yes, I'm here.
Okay. Respect your opinion. I think you like to hear from you.
Oh, absolutely. So I definitely agree with all of the statements made by Dr. Liu and Megan Marshall, both in the first reading and second reading. We have had extensive engagement, both with all the medical providers locally that were mentioned and the hospital executive representatives. We've evaluated both the current model and the model that we have the option to move to. And overwhelmingly, I would suggest that the board move in the direction of the COES model.
Got muted, Jennifer. Something happened.
Can you hear me again?
Yes.
My main concern has been around the audit results and the feedback that we've received from beneficiaries regarding the lack of services available here locally and lack of I think another important piece of this is that we have communicated with the Department of Healthcare Services at the state multiple times because there's been confusion raised about the options that are available. So we've confirmed with them on multiple occasions that we have two options. One is to pass the ordinance that we are proposing today to adopt the single plan, or the other is to continue as a regional model county with the two commercial plans. However, the two plans that exist today, they have to go through a competitive bidding process. So they will not necessarily be the plans that would be selected if we move forward. So I think that that's a very risky situation, that we listen to the existing plans today about what they are providing and make our future decisions based on those things, because they may not be the plans in the future, and the county will not have a say in that option. If we go with a regional county model, state will make that selection for us, as they have during the last two cycles. And all of the partners that we've met with during the meeting, the local medical executives, we have all agreed that the existing situation that we have, it is not, and you'll see by even the letter that was provided from Rick Rawson, it is not ideal that our community is not receiving the level of services that we would like for them to have. So that's my thoughts. Supervisor.
Your basic premises, go ahead with this.
Yeah, yes, that's my recommendation.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay. I think, yeah, we already had a motion.
Okay.
And I believe a second, is that right? We previously had a second from Supervisor Blazer.
Yes.
Okay. We'll try one more time with Ms. Wahlberg. I see she's put up her hand again. She is a co-host. So Ms. Wahlberg, if you can unmute yourself, please do so now.
Wow.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm going to call for roll call vote.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
No.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, moving on to item 483, 2021, Agricultural Commissioner. Ordinance, hold public hearing, waive second reading, and adopt ordinance amending section 7.4.700 of chapter 7.42 of the Yuba County Ordinance Code prohibiting the cultivation of industrial hemp within the unincorporated area of Yuba County. Oh, there you are, Steve. Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Chairman Bradford, honorable board members. So the proposed, I'm Steve Shear, Ag Commissioner. The proposed ordinance would extend the moratorium on industrial hemp cultivation in Yuba County until August 31st, 2022. Just for a little background, our moratorium on the cultivation of industrial hemp was put into place because state and federal regulations were not yet in place to regulate industrial hemp. As is covered in the staff report, California still does not have an approved industrial hemp state plan, and regulations are still being developed and amended. Local jurisdictions still do not have regulatory certainty regarding the cultivation of industrial hemp. Extending the moratorium will allow time for the pending regulations to take effect and allow time for allow staff time to address regulatory hurdles, public safety, workload, and land use issues. It's my intent to readdress the moratorium with the board later this year after the regulations become set in stone, as it were. They probably will still be changing for some time, but that's the plan and my recommendation. So thank you for your consideration, and I would entertain any questions you might have at this time.
Great. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes, Steve, I think you hardly ever get applications from many farmers to actually grow hemp. Is that right?
We have had none because it hasn't been, we've had the moratorium. So, but when it first became legalized in the Farm Bill, we did get quite a few calls regarding asking about hemp. Since that time, there's been a lot of hemp production in the state, and the acreage statewide is falling rapidly because the financial incentives didn't turn out to be as good as a lot of people thought. So in the last year, I think I've had one, maybe two inquiries as to if we allowed hemp to be grown here. So it probably dropped from a call a week when it was first legalized to maybe two in the last year.
Yeah, I always thought that hemp would be a potential viable ag crop because of so many uses for it, legitimate uses for it. But I think, regulations and mandates and everything else, it's just letting the market work its forces. The farmers and the government says it's just not worth it.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, I do not see any hands raised, so I will return it to the board for additional discussion and a motion.
Okay, Don. Go for it.
I'm done discussing.
Okay.
Are we making a motion, or do we?
Is that a motion, Don?
All right, I'll second. If there is a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, Andy, was the motion from you?
I thought it was Don, but that's okay. I'll second Don. I'll second Don.
Don, I think you made a motion.
Yes, I guess I did.
So we have a first from Supervisor Blazer and a second from Supervisor Vasquez. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up is item 443, 2021, Community Development and Services Public Hearing. Hold public hearing and adopt resolution annexing territory to County Service Area 66, Zone of Benefit E. Morning, Dan, is this you?
It is, thank you. Good morning, Chairman Bradford, members of the board. I'm Dan Peterson, Director of Public Works. This is a fairly routine item. Staff is requesting that the board hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution that annexes this specific area to County Service Area CSA 66, Zone of Benefit E. This is a two-step process. First, the area has to be annexed by LAFCO. And then the second step is that the Board of Supervisors has to annex this area into the specific zone of benefit. The zones of benefit allow or provide a funding mechanism for the county to provide services such as local park, recreation, parkway facilities, street sweeping, fire protection, etc., highway lighting, landscaping. So what we're requesting at this point is that the board open up a public hearing, and at the end of the public hearing, adopt the resolution that annexes this portion of River Oaks South subdivision into the zone of benefit E for CSA 66.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Yes.
Are you going to go, Andy?
I guess I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it.
Resolution. Okay.
Okay, I have a first from Supervisor Vasquez, a second from Supervisor Blazer. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes, and I will close the public hearing as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we are going to move on to item 435, 2021, County Administrator, hold public hearing and receive presentation from the County Administrator's Office on the final budget for fiscal year 21-22 and approve the fiscal year 21-22 final budget. I will open the public hearing.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Kevin Mallon, County Administrator. I'm going to be very brief because I'm going to be turning this over to Sean Powers, our Assistant County Administrator, and Michelle Logan, Management Analyst in the County Administrator's Office. Those two have been doing the heavy lifting here. I'm crunching the numbers and getting our budget to where it's at. And so I'm going to let them take it from here and walk you through our final budget presentation.
All right, thank you, Kevin. With that, Supervisor Brasser, I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen here. And hopefully you can see that presentation.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. With that, once again, Sean Powers, Assistant County Administrator, and Michelle Logan, Management Analyst. She'll be handling the board actions at the end of my presentation. Just have some brief slides for you to go through. Do want to thank the staff members and the departments on the fiscal team that help us get this together. But more importantly, thank Grace Mall, who this will be her final budget hearing, and all the effort that she helped with the transition, turning this over to Michelle and I. We greatly appreciate it. And she is smiling in the cheap seats as I am presenting this time. So thank you, Grace. I promise to call her out. So with that, kind of jump right into it. Everything that kind of we touched on with our proposed budget, still some of our policies that your board has put in place, always using conservative revenue estimates. Firmly believe in the one time on the revenue and expenses. Be pleased to report our final budget does meet and exceed all of our policy goals. And our total operating budget increase did have a slight uptick of about 1.3%. We'll go over the details of that. And while we're very pleased to bring you the final budget, unfortunately, there's still more work to do on budget itself throughout the year. Measure K will be coming back to your board in October with the solution for that, as that's still being put together as well. So there'll be some budget adjustments there, and also ongoing labor negotiations. We'll hopefully pick up those potential changes at mid-year. So still some more work to do, but this is a very good milestone for our budget calendar. So a little bit of budget increases that was some massaging from proposed to final, some minor adjustments in our ongoing revenue. Most notably in our BLF, we saw an uptick there, property taxes and et cetera. Despite Stan's best efforts in the Treasury office, we did take a little haircut on our interest earnings. Again, a conservative estimate because we know where rates were at. Those are the most notable items. So essentially a net of about a 120 increase. Very good news to report how we finished out the end of the year with help with the auditor's office to kind of get to our ending year balance. We saw quite an uptick in our available funds at the end of the year, an additional roughly 5 million, so which is great news. We attribute that to our departments being especially conservative at the end of the year. We appreciate that, even though they have the appropriations they didn't spend, and also some of our CARES Act funding final up as we were able to cover some operational expenses. So that was very healthy for our budget. We'll show you where we're going to put that to work here in just a moment. As we said, talking about where we can put some of that money, again, one time for one time. Being as conservative we are, we did make a recommendation to bolster some of our savings account as you speak, up our general reserves by another $1 million, put a little bit more in contingencies, put a little bit more in economic uncertainty, and then also maintain an operating balance in the general fund, which helps us with month-to-month cash flow. So these are definitely our savings accounts for uncertainties. The nice thing is now that we're proposing to fund these in the current year, those balances, pending any uncertainty this year, would still be available for next year. And this does help preserve the fiscal health of the county. Definitely was prominent when we did our borrowing on the refi facility. And when they look at our financial situation, having those savings account is a very good thing. Moving on to some other minor adjustments that we met in the budget. You'll see that in the attached form on the position allocation. There was still a need to make some minor adjustments with some staffing and some projects, and some of the departments listed there. The most notable one was emergency services. Kevin and I are definitely interested in making an investment in there and with everything that we have going on, trying to deepen that bench a little bit. But with that, most of that was position allocation that we talked about, and a couple of projects in there, and those adjustments that came in about just around $458,000. Some additional adjustments that needed to be made. These are non-general fund, specifically to the Sheriff's Department. We had a couple of things come in, one of them being the Prop 172 sales tax, again, higher than anticipated funding that we had proposed. So the Sheriff's operation is putting that to work in their budget. And also Mr. Mallon was able to successfully negotiate that casino MOU, which also resulted in additional funds. And those will be put into Sheriff's operations for law enforcement services. With the jail, we had a small adjustment of about $200K that had to do with our jail bed contracts, and also us starting to look at putting the ARPA money to work. So we've made those adjustments in there, and those projects are forthcoming. Separate of those two items in the Sheriff's Department, we are looking at their automotive service funds. Again, wanting to maintain a healthy fleet to maintain vehicle services and some vehicle replacements that are in there. And also the Sheriff's Department have to be a little bit more creative on how they retrofit vehicles because of vehicle availability that's just in the common marketplace for acquiring vehicles right now. Moving over to Juvenile Hall, your board already did approve this. We had our grant for secure housing improvements. That was a $432,000 adjustment that came in between proposed and final. And again, your board has already seen and approved that. Moving over to a couple more adjustments, community development, particularly building and public works. We had a $1 million adjustment there, not uncommon for community development, and that's with some contracts and some project specific work. In general government, we're very excited to be budgeting for the countywide financial system. We're hoping to kick that off soon and get that underway. Another major project coming down the pipeline. And within some massaging in the budget, we had to do some funding source changes and move around some funding sources that had to do with the airport taxiway project and the utility ISF, which will be the battery backup project here at the government center. So kind of showing you kind of things in summary before we get into any questions or discussion. We have our final versus proposed. Our operating came in about 248 proposed. We're at 251 roughly for final, and internal services about the same, with the grand total being roughly 275 million, going to a grand total of 278 million. Represents about a 3.5 million budget increase. Or 1.3% from what you originally saw proposed when we gave you the full presentation with Mr. Mallon. So with that, we'd definitely entertain any questions from the board. Thank you.
The board have any questions?
Well, it's a very good presentation, and I'm glad we're able to increase some of these budgets. I know the sheriff appreciates it. Thank you.
Thanks, Supervisor Vasquez.
Okay, any public comment on this item? Okay, I am not seeing any hands raised. So with that, I'll return it to the board. Any more comments or questions from board members? Okay. I would just say looks great, Sean. I appreciate all the effort on this from you and the team, and it was a great presentation. So it's nice to see us having money to be able to save it for a rainy day. I think that's very important, and I'm glad that we do that. So with that, I will ask for a motion.
Supervisor Bradford, actually, Michelle Logan, I'm going to turn it over to her. We're
Okay.
going to walk you through the individual items we need from the board.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, Michelle, didn't mean to take away your opportunity to talk to us.
That's okay. Good morning. Staff is recommending that the board approve the adjustments to the final budget, which result in a total operating budget of $278,644,746. We are requesting the board to approve the fiscal year 21-22 allocation by budget unit in 6 separate recommendations. So recommendation A is under section 1 of the allocation by budget unit that we had provided as one of the attachments. We are requesting a motion to approve the operating funds in the amount of $249,434,532.
You want it? Do you want that motion now?
Yes, we have to do them in 6 separate steps.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Okay, do you have a second? Okay, I'll second. We have a first from Supervisor Vasquez, a second from Supervisor Bradford. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Should we just go down the list, Michelle?
Yes, I have 4 more.
Okay.
So under section 2 of that same document, the recommendation B, request motion to approve the airport enterprise fund in the amount of $2,369,385.
We'll get him, Don.
I got a question about that one.
Okay.
On the enterprise funds, what does that actually mean?
It's the airport.
Yeah, I know the airport, but is this some improvements or day-to-day operations or?
It's their total budget.
Supervisor Blazer, I'll chime in on that one. So the Airport Enterprise Fund, because it is a separate entity, we treat it like a business. That is essentially the entire airport's budget, their revenue and expenses and their operating fund. We treat it like an enterprise, so it runs like its own separate entity. So that is essentially their operational budget for the given fiscal year. And we take that item separately as an action item because it is enterprise.
Okay, but this isn't really including any major improvements though, right?
Let me take a look at the taxiway project would be included in there, but other than that, that would be their regular operating budget for the year, all their regular recurring revenue and expenses.
Yeah, I think they're working on a grant for that taxiway, but the airport itself is certainly showing its age, but yet it has a lot of opportunities. And I think what they're telling me, the taxiway is going to probably help to develop more opportunities out there. But it's surprisingly aged. It's a little ragged around the edges. So hopefully we can bring it back. So I guess that was all my only question. Thanks.
What happens to get old? That's what happens to get old, you know, a little ragged around the edges.
Yeah, Supervisor Blazer, to confirm, that's actually just the regular operating fund. The taxiway is not included in that.
Yeah, I think there's a separate grant for that.
Correct.
Before the motion, I think I misspoke. It's the amount of the funds is $2,379,000 I wanted to clarify that.
Nice catch. Okay, Dawn, you want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the airport enterprise funds.
Okay. And we have a second from Supervisor Vasquez. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Recommendation C, request motion to approve funds for reserves for $1 million.
Okay. Do we have any questions on this item? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Ward, Seth. I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a first from Supervisor Vasquez,
I'll second it.
second from Supervisor Blazer. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Thank you.
Recommendation D, request motion to approve funds for the Economic Uncertainties Fund for $1 million.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make that motion. Seth? Make the motion.
Okay, I heard a first from Supervisor Vasquez. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a second from Supervisor Blazer. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes. I guess I'm confused about how these motions are made and people seconding when I tried to do them earlier. So I'm still dealing with that shock.
Okay.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher absent. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Recommendation E is to request motion to approve funds for general fund contingencies for $1,576,463.
No moved.
Okay, I'll second. Have a first from Supervisor Vasquez, a second from Supervisor Bradford. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher is absent. Thank you.
Last but not least, recommendation F, request motion to approve funds for internal service funds for $26,830,829.
Big dog. Make that motion. Seth, wait. Go ahead. I made
I
the
will be
motion.
happy to make this motion if perhaps my other motions will be equally liked and enthused about. So I will move that we approve this $26 million motion.
I have a first by Supervisor Vasquez, a second by Supervisor Fuhrer. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Fletcher is absent.
Great. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank
Sean.
you.
Thanks, Supervisor Bradford,
Right.
board member. Appreciate it.
Okay, next up is correspondence as listed on the agenda. And we will move to board and staff member reports. We will start with Supervisor Vasquez.
Well, I think as a board, we accomplished a lot today and broke new ground. But I really am irritated because CDC is not telling us the truth and is failing to report meaningful data, which is I'm bringing up again, but they're also failing to acknowledge natural immunity. And the only mass study positive that they're using is one from Bangladesh. And why are thousands of aliens coming in without being tested or vaccinated? On that note, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Blazer?
Well, the way things are going nowadays, I think it's prudent to take a few steps back towards the Constitution. Coincidentally, Friday is Constitution Day, September 17th. That was designated by Congress some years ago. Also, I think from the 17th to the 23rd is Constitution Week. So many of you have seen these little Constitution books. I'm sure a lot of you already have them. I don't think it's a bad idea to get back on track on making things more visible about the Constitution. We could even make these books available to employees, you know, at administration or somewhere. There is also, if there is an educational institution that receives any federal funds, they're actually required on the 17th each year for the students to be given some kind of information about the Constitution. So we need to try to bring the Constitution back in focus a little bit. There's many ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Fuhrer?
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse, and I'm afraid I am. So if I do so, I apologize, and you feel free to cut me off. But if people are concerned about the Constitution or about people's rights being violated, or about bad mask studies, perhaps we could enact a local ordinance protecting classes from being mistreated and have a fine system so that that would not occur. It's very upsetting to me that members of families cannot be with their loved ones at the hospital because of the unvaccinated status, even though they would have superior protection from natural recovery. It's upsetting to me that venues like the amphitheater, as of the 4th, I believe, are going to have it where non-vaccinated people have to show PCR tests, but vaccinated people do not, when in fact we know that vaccinated people can also carry the infection. So I would really like to see us take action to protect this group of people who are being unjustly persecuted for not getting a vax when they have a variety of reasons why their protection may well be very much improved or superior to vaccination statuses. So if my fellow board members are concerned with that sort of thing, and they would like to make a motion to have such an emergency ordinance included in our next agenda, I would be happy to second it so it did not die. Thank you.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, so the request is to have council draft something like that and bring it back to the Board of Supervisors. That is the motion. We have a first, CAO Mallon?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the board understands the path you're suggesting or taking on. There's a distinct difference between a resolution where you're like you did earlier today, where you're stating an opinion, and adopting an ordinance where you're enacting a law. So you'll want, as what was suggested previously at the board meeting, to the point where the county would penalize businesses that violate that law. I think it was suggested a $5,000 penalty. So there's a lot in play under an ordinance. So I just want to make sure it's distinctly different than a resolution. And I think county councils, I said plural, may have some more on this, but I just want to make sure the board understands what we're talking about before it's acted upon.
Through the chair, would it please the board if Supervisor Fuhrer and myself sat down with county council and looked into what he would like to do and make sure that we can do it without creating massive problems? Is that something we can do, county council?
So then is the
I'll buy you
request,
lunch.
is the request maybe for the chair to create an ad hoc committee that could work with council?
Sure.
Instead of a motion to put an ordinance on the, would that be appropriate? Would Andy and Seth agree to that?
I would.
for what it's worth, I have been looking into this issue. I can tell you the blanket language that was just presented would not be lawful. It's overly broad. So I think the best way, for what it's worth, and I'm not a board member, but as counsel, I think the suggestion for an ad hoc is a good idea, so we can walk through issues of preemption, state preemption. As I said earlier today, we can't pass ordinances in violation of state law. It's that simple. So the suggestion that we could pass an ordinance requiring or prohibiting the hospital from requiring vaccinations, that's dead on arrival. It doesn't get you there. The issue then of a $5,000 penalty against any business that would discriminate based upon vaccination status, that also presents preemption issues, as in essence, you're imposing a criminal penalty under the UNRU Act, that's Civil Code Section 56 et sec. As I said, I've gotten to do a little bit of research on this. That's a very broad statutory scheme regarding discrimination against individuals, and it sets forth those classes of individuals who are protected. We'll have to look at that to see if the courts have determined that that is that the state has totally occupied the field, thereby prohibiting any local legislation on the issue. But those are issues we can look at and discuss as part of the ad hoc, and I would lean that way rather than try to fashion something in the next 2 weeks that will comply with both a very complicated area of law, preemption, and the desires of the board.
Okay, I have no issue appointing a ad hoc committee with Supervisor Vasquez and Supervisor Fuhrer to work with legal counsel to draft something that is legal and bring it back to the board.
And if I may, there is still a motion and a second, however, on the table. So that needs to be resolved either through withdrawal of the motion or a vote.
I'll withdraw the second.
I think you were the first, but you'll withdraw?
Okay, I'll withdraw.
Okay, so the motion's off the table. We have an ad hoc created. Okay. Supervisor Fuhrer, anything else?
No, thank you for being patient with me.
Council, any comments?
Nothing.
Joe? Or Mike, sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to briefly advise the board that I will be attending the county council conference over the next few days. I will be checking my emails and I will be available by cell phone. But if you have immediate needs and can't get in touch with me, then Joe is your go-to guy from now through Friday. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO Mallon.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I just want to thank the board for the policy direction in regards to our budget. That steady hand, steady course we're on, and we're on the right course. And it's nice to be in a financial position that we're in. Frankly, we haven't experienced this in my tenure here at the county in the last couple of decades. We're on very solid ground right now, and things are looking up, and which is great news for us. And so I just wanted to thank the board for their trust in myself and my staff and all the department heads on our recommendations on how best to utilize those resources. And
been a long road. Thank the staff for us, making it easier.
Okay.
That's all I had for today.
Thank you, Kevin. My only comment is I'm sure everyone is aware, but just a reminder that today is election day. So if you haven't had an opportunity to cast your vote yet, you still have time to do that. And Yuba County elections will start processing ballots after 8 p.m. in the board chambers in the government center. And they have invited the public to come and watch that. So if you are curious how that process works, or you have any concerns about that process, I would encourage you to show up and watch how it's done. I know I plan to spend some time this evening doing that. So, and with that, we have closed session items as listed on the agenda. And so we will take a 10-minute break and then, so 11:19, and then we will have closed session. So if we could wait until we get moved into the room and then take the break, that would probably be the best. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you advise who all needs to be moved into the break room? Council?
So it should be Council Mike Scotzi, Sims Ely. I believe that the public guardian should be on. Not 100% sure.
I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing you.
The public guardian should be on.
You said a name before that.
Sims Ely.
Could you repeat that?
Sims Ely.
You'll have to do without me.
Label.
I believe that's it.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, don't forget about me.
Oh, and the CAO.
Jill Abel?
If she's on, there are a
Joe?
few. And are you having trouble hearing me?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I'm not sure why.
Okay, so just to recap, Sharon Figuera, Kevin Mallon, Jenny Vasquez. Did I miss anyone? I'm sorry, there's a problem getting you in. Let's see, did I miss anyone? Okay. Whew.
Joe, just one.
Joe, I didn't get you in. There you go. Sorry.
Does Jill Abel need to go in?
He said yes. So she should have been on that. Okay.
great. Council? Oh, we don't have council yet. There we go. Council, feel free to report out.
All right. We met in closed session on items 475, 2021, 448, 2021, 498, 2021, and 494, 2021. No reportable action on any item.
Great. Thank you, council. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.